This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. After the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, and the environmental catastrophe that's going to affect both the environment, also human lives, we've witnessed Fox News and conservatives across the spectrum lose their collective minds because it affects white people. And we should be concerned. We should be outraged at the deregulation that took place in the Trump administration that contributed to this happening. I'm not going to say it caused it, but deregulation of this type and magnitude absolutely created an atmosphere and an environment that allowed this more easily to take place, letting Norfolk Southern and these other rail lines have unfettered, unencumbered by any government regulation, do what they're going to do for the sake of profit, for the sake of profitability, disregarding the impact on human lives and the planet we live on. Republicans for decades have screamed about deregulation. Donald Trump, when he took office, for every regulation, I'm going to roll back 2 or whatever nonsense he claimed. And now that Fox News is on this track to try to put Ron DeSantis in the White House rather than Donald Trump or over Donald Trump, they're starting to tell the truth about what took place prior to this train derailment during the Trump administration. They're starting to, in a not so subtle way, but not coming right out and saying it, that Donald Trump had something to do with this. He can make his trips to East Palestine and buy firefighters McDonald's. And we're going to get to that in a subsequent video. It doesn't take away from the fact that he played a role in this. The Republican fascination with deregulation absolutely had something to do with this. Here's Steve Doocy on Fox and Friends laying it out.
The White House.
Right. Speaking of the White House, apparently regulations regarding train safety were changed during the Trump administration. This particular railroad and others lobbied President Trump to dismantle an Obama-era rule that would have required railroads to update their braking systems. And apparently the Obama administration had pushed for it to govern transportation of hazardous materials after about 500,000 barrels of crude were dumped. But ultimately, the Trump administration undid that and said the costs exceeded the benefits.
Now, look, I'm not a transportation expert. I don't know if that particular regulation had something to do with this particular crash, the braking issue. I don't know. But I do know that generally deregulating companies that transport hazardous chemicals and materials is a bad idea, because when something happens and they're able to cut corners that they previously weren't able to, shit like this happens. Lives are impacted, and we should all be outraged when it happens, whether it impacts a black community or a largely white Trump-supporting community, because we all live on this earth. And in this next clip, you're going to see, same show, Brian Kilmeade, the beady-eyed wonder, apoplectic. He is beside himself. He had no idea about train derailments. What? Maybe it's time, he says, with a light bulb going on over his head, maybe it's time to regulate. Oh, white people have been impacted by this. Maybe it's time for the government to step in and do something preemptively, which in this case wouldn't be preemptively. It would be reinserting government regulation where it had been removed. Watch the beady-eyed wonder, Brian Kilmeade.
Say is I knew nothing about these derailment numbers. I'm stunned by it. That we have thousands of derailments all the time, and how costly it is, and how they're not kept up, and maybe the regulation needs to be there. I think there needs to be there's a widespread sentiment to have a look at the whole rail industry, what the lobbyists are doing, and what the actual. I heard there were 3 people on that train of how many cars? 20 of which had chemicals in it?
Somebody at the front, somebody at the back, and
Does that
some
blow
other
you away? I mean, I know that.
Yeah, Brian, train derailments happen. And in the absence of government regulation, they happen more frequently. 1 + 1 shockingly equals 2. Dum-dum. Luckily, we do have adults in the room. We have Democrats in office in the presidency. We have Democrats who are controlling the executive branch of government. And Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, was on site and was asked a question specifically about this, about Donald Trump having something to do with this. And if he's on the scene now and you've asked him for help, what kind of help can Donald Trump provide? Watch this.
Yeah. You mentioned a national political figure who's decided to get involved. It sounds like you're talking about Trump. And then you said, I need your help. How can he help?
Well, one thing he could do is express support for reversing the deregulation that happened on his watch. I heard him say he had nothing to do with it, even though it was in his administration. So if he had nothing to do with it and they did it in his administration against his will, maybe he could come out and say that he supports us moving in a different direction. We're not afraid to own our policies when it comes to raising the bar on regulation. And I've got to think that him indicating that this is something that everybody, no matter how much you disagree on politics and presidential campaigns, can get behind. Higher fines, tougher regulations on safety, Congress untying our hands on braking rules, all the other things that go with that, that'd be a nice thing for him to do.
Of course, that's not going to happen. Donald Trump will try to rewrite history, create a narrative that what happened didn't happen, fake news, it's a hoax, it's a witch hunt, whatever. And likely there will be a large percentage of the people who live in East Palestine who will buy it, who will lap it up, who can't get enough of the Trump lies and propaganda. Even though what Donald Trump did by siding with big business, by siding with the rail line, Norfolk Southern, and others like it, is what led to this catastrophe. What do you think? I'd love to know. You can call. Leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. You can also email me, daily@dollemore.com. More importantly would be to leave a comment. It helps to kick the algorithm, all the stuff that's way above my pay grade, kick the algorithm into gear to provide this video as a recommendation for others who may benefit from the information. I would appreciate it very much. Follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore just about everywhere. And if you appreciate what I do, if you like the cut of my jib, please consider supporting my work right here. Click the join button below. Become a channel member for $2 a month or head on over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. And if you haven't subscribed to that podcast, I Doubt It, with myself and Brittany Page, please do. It's on Spotify, everywhere. If you listen to podcasts, it's right there where you listen to other podcasts. I love you guys. I appreciate you very much. Thanks for your time, attention, and passion for making our world a better place. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.